The courthouse clock says it's 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and call this February meeting of the Blount County Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Roger, if you'll call the roll, please.
Andy Allen's absent. Larry Chesney. Here. Bruce Damerow. Here. Stan Hedrick. Rob Walker.
Here. If there's no discussion, is there a motion to approve last month's minutes? Second. All in favor say aye. Tonight, we've got 2 special exceptions and 2 variances. First special exception is machine shop on Walker School Road.
This request is for a machine shop at 814 Walker School Road. The property is identified on tax map 101, parcel 3804, and is zoned R1. After talking with the applicant, I believe that this request should be for a change of non-conforming use, but under other circumstances could be considered as a family commercial enterprise. The reason I believe a change of non-conforming use is the best fit for this request is because of the size of the structure that it will be housed in. A family commercial enterprise does specifically list a machine shop as a qualifying use, but it also limits the size of an accessory structure to 2,000 square feet. The existing structure does exceed that limit. For a one-time change of use, the BZA just has to find that the proposed use will be of lesser impact than the original use. The existing use is a shop that houses, services, and stores school buses. The applicant has indicated that all activities and storage for the machine shop will be within the existing structure. Currently, the school buses are stored outside of the structure. The applicant predicts, based on his business at the current location, that on a busy day, his shop would produce no more than 30 trips, including customers and deliveries. And then, of course, I included that aerial photo there so you'd get an idea of what's out there on the ground.
Is there anyone here in favor of this special exception that'd like to speak?
Can I say one other thing? Look, tonight, let's make an effort to turn our microphones on. It makes Karen's life a whole lot easier when she's typing.
Is there anything you'd like to add to what Roger just told us?
I don't understand all of it,
Well, we'll have some questions from the board here in just a minute. Is there anyone in opposition of this who'd like to speak? Hearing none, we'll open up the floor to discussion from the board.
What's his name?
My name's John Blair.
What's the size of the existing garage?
It's roughly about 3,000 square foot at least.
So 2,000 is what we've got, and this is just 3,000.
Yes, 2,000 for a family commercial enterprise is the limit on the size. Of course, this is an existing building that houses the grandfather's use, so it's not under those restraints.
John, are you moving a machine shop operation from some other location to this location?
Yes, I've been in the city of Alcoa for,
Talk at the mic.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm sick too. I've been currently in the city of Alcoa for 18 years. And my brother is the one that owns the property that I'm looking at, you know. So, yes.
So you won't own this property while you're operating a machine shop there?
Yes, I will own it.
You will own it?
Yes, in the county. In the county, yeah.
Roger, are there any issues with this building meeting any setbacks that if he asked for a setback, is that any issue?
It meets the setback requirements.
It does? Mm-hmm. Have you had any issues from the neighbors?
Not for this use. I will say that one of the neighbors did call me when they saw the sign go up, and once I explained to him what was going on, he was actually pleased because he believes it'll be a better use, less impact on them than what is out there with the buses.
But the building we're talking about is one where all the buses are sitting around it.
Yes.
What type of machining are you going to do?
I do automotive machine work. I work on engines and that stuff. I don't work on cars though. That's one thing I don't want to do. Just anything dealing with an engine. That's what I do.
So these customers that are coming in and out, they're bringing you engines and picking up their engines?
Yes, yes, yes. But we're an automotive machine shop. And, but like I said, I've been probably at the city of Alcoa since 2002, 92 or 93, you know.
How'd you come up with the 30 trips a day at maximum?
Well, he kind of asked me, you know, and I said maybe on a slow day, maybe 5 cars, but on a busy day, maybe 30, you know. So I really never counted nothing like that, you know. But I'm not really I'm a specialty. I do specialty work, you know, so it's not like I've been in the location where I'm at right now, and most people don't even know where I'm at. Because I'm at the end of the mechanics, you know, that as far as Charles West and dealerships, and then you got garages I do work for, but I do it for individuals also.
What are you gonna do with the school buses?
They're not mine.
Oh.
He'll be moving them.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll be moved.
So the school bus operation will go away?
Yes, it will not stay there. He's already bought a piece of property, and he's gonna move all that before I ever move in. But it will, like you said, it will. The property will be cleaned up compared to where it is right now. You know.
Any other discussion? Chair will entertain a motion.
I move we accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roger, before we change that, do we need to add into that as a change of use into this motion? Is that agreeable?
Yes. But what he read off, it's in here, right?
For the non-conformity?
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the, I think.
Roger, what you're asking us to approve is what you're suggesting.
It's non-conformity.
Yes, as the change of use.
Right.
Yes. Larry Chesney,
Yes.
Bruce Damrow,
Yes.
Stan Hedrick,
Yes.
Rob Walker.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
Next special exception tonight is development off Joe Pye Lane in West Miller's Cove.
Is that for me?
That's it.
My next step, the only thing is when I get everything set up, the permit will be right.
You can give me a call tomorrow and I can, yeah, all right, thanks. This request is for a multifamily development to be located on Joe Pye Lane in West Miller's Cove. The property is identified on tax map 82, parcel 66. It is zoned R1. The request is for 10 dwelling units on 13.16 acres. The site plan does indicate that the required 40-foot setback from all property lines will be met, and the proposed density is within the requirements. Buffering requirements can be met by the existing vegetation as long as it is maintained to a level that will create a solid screen from the neighboring properties. The site plan indicates that the proposed road will meet the required 16 feet wide paved surface and will even include 2 feet gravel shoulders with a turnaround for the emergency vehicles. Access to the development will come off Joe Pye Lane, which is a private road that was built to standards for that subdivision. The complete drainage plan with calculations has been submitted for this development. The drainage will be handled by 3 detention ponds that are located on a budding property that is under the same ownership. Each dwelling will have private parking off of the right-of-way. The open space requirements will be met by the wooded area that surrounds the project. There will not be any on-site fire hydrants, but they will have access to an existing hydrant that is approximately 3,105 feet away, and I included a little map in there with that. The water pressure in this area would be an issue in consideration for additional hydrants. There will not be a common garbage reciprocal for this development. If approved, all environmental permits must be obtained prior to the issuance of building permits. And I've got those calculations here. I didn't want to bog your computers down with this, but those are the drainage calculations, and I've got a big set of plans if you want to see them.
I suppose you're in favor of this special exception.
I am, Guy One-Tees from Vision Engineering here, representative of the owner.
Your name again?
Guy One-Tees.
Spell your last name. Spell your last name.
W-A-N-T-I-E-Z.
Thank you.
With Vision Engineering.
Is there anything you'd like to add, what Roger just told us?
I think he covered most everything. Is everybody familiar with the location of the property, of where the track's located? This is a parceled out piece from, the overall tract was 175 acres, plus or minus. They placed about 113 of that into conservation. And there's, the remaining 62 acres of land have been divided into 4 tracts, and this parcel being one of those 4 that were parceled out of that remaining 62 acres. Site distance at the proposed entrance location on Joe Pye is adequate. We're coming in at the crest of a hill. Access to the site is relatively easy. A slight incline to get to the top of the ridge, and then traveling along the top of the ridge from that point. Gentle sloping off both sides of where the road's going. Pretty gentle piece of property considering where we're located. Soil testing has been completed. The state's been out and approved. Those documents have been reviewed with the health department as well. That's about all I have.
Since it's so secluded, I don't imagine there's anyone in opposition to this, but we'll open up the floor for discussion from the board.
First of all, I'd approve about anything that Blackberry comes forward with, because everything they do is above and beyond. This is one of them. And my concern is not with any of this particular development, but my concern is with the road going up in the cove. This is a separate piece of property that's been acquired and development is starting on it. This is 10 units. The road is maxed out on traffic. There's squeeze points, no shoulders. So for the health, safety, and welfare factor of not only the people here, but the people in the cove, is it appropriate to tie the road question in with the approval of this development?
I don't think that would go along with the health and safety, welfare of the citizens of the county.
Again, everything being okay, I'm 100% for the Blackberry part, but I think we do have a road situation that ought to be looked at, and some consideration ought to be done there as to what can we do. There's, if you've not driven all the way up the cove, there's about 3 or 4 points that it goes from the road down. There's trucks, big trucks, lots of traffic, which goes with development. And again, I'm all for it, but I think we ought to take a serious look at the road and see what can be done or will be done, and not at Blackberry's expense. This is a county deal. The county's got a windfall there. They're doing their part in developing, and I think the county ought to take a look. So if anything, I think we ought to challenge the county to take a look at the road and say, hey, things are going on up there. This is great. We got to keep up with the development. So that's my 2 cents worth, but
God, do you know if Blackberry has talked to the county and done a traffic study on West Millers Cove Road?
I am not aware of one that has been done.
I think that, whenever they did the last condominium development that you guys approved, they had some conversations with Bill Dunlap. At that point, it was our understanding there wasn't anything that was needed. We're basically looking at where we're tying to the road, looking at those site distances, those things.
For the record, could you tell us your name? I know who you are, but.
Yeah, I'm Matt Smith. I work for Blackberry. And as far as Blackberry is concerned, I don't know that we really have a position on it. I did work with that appraiser and pull some numbers. The last condominium that you all approved there, which is on the agenda again tonight, I think, the before value of that was around $307,000. The after value, tax purpose value was around $23 million.
See, now, this is, like I say, there's there's 4 tracks outside the easement, so undoubtedly there will be other developments coming on here, so now is an appropriate time to, instead of just saying, well, yeah, it looks good to me, I think we need a serious look at that, because lots of people go up and down that road, not just the workers, but it's an impact on the county, and I think we ought to leave a positive impression on everybody.
Are you saying that you're gonna make a pending approval based on the county improving the road?
Well,
I don't know if we can.
No, and I don't know really where I'm going, because again, I'm all for Blackberry, but I think we got a problem in the road, and it will do nothing but get worse from here. And a road study or some group of people, maybe more than just the road superintendent, but since Blackberry is such an important part of the county and the tax base, the commission need to, if nothing else, take a drive up through there and just look at the what ifs and look at the shoulders. Like right now with all the wet weather, the roads are starting to come up too. And work is going to have to be done. And when that work is done, why not go ahead and do those little squeeze points that if somebody's tire goes off that much, they're like going off the table. It's just a safety issue. And that's not bad. It's good that we're to the point that things need to be done, but that's I think a real issue that we need to take a good, positive, serious look at. And it may be that we approve this, but at the same time, the county needs to look at that road to where when these things are built out, we've looked at it, and if it's deemed to make some improvements, add some shoulders, do the pinch points, make some improvements, all that could coincide with the completion of some of these new additions here. But it's a point I think that we ought to make to address now, because like I say, as more developments come on, it's going to do nothing but become more and more of a situation. So now's a good time to address it.
I understand the point you're making, and I'd be happy to forward a report to the highway department, but I don't know what authority we would have in getting them to get work done.
Well,
but I'd be more than happy to pass the message.
And I agree, we probably don't have no authority. This is just a positive point to be made that, again, if the Blackberry's doing the growth that they're going, we need to come right along with it and make sure things are in order for that growth to continue. It's all positive either way you look at it.
I'd like to bring up another point to kind of add to what Stan was talking about, and you might know, I know you know more about it than I do, is the water issue. I know on past Blackberry, the water pressure is very low, and the more Blackberry adds on, it's probably just going to get lower. And I didn't know if there's anything been discussed with Tuckaleechee Utilities to do something with the water lines coming through the cove, or?
I was in Lynn's office today, and we're working through that. We had Barger out last week doing a detailed flow test, doing residuals and everything, looking at it. The pressure issue, I think, is related to the height of the tank up there around the front of Nebo. So the pressure is something that, unless we did another pressure tank on our end, that's not anything that's development has gone through there, basically there's a system of different booster pumps that we're using, and right now that's kind of what we're sticking with for the different, components of the campus. So the pressure issue is on the tank, the flow issue is kind of what we're looking at in detailing, and we've had several reports on that. We're looking at a lot of different options. I've had 2 hydrologists out in the past couple months, and really done a pretty exhaustive look at it from that angle too. If there's our own supply that we can provide, or if we need to upgrade to leaching supply, and we've been kind of on them to get it together and really get us a map of everything they've got, go through it all real well. It's my understanding we're on a grant cycle now for 2014 to upgrade those lines, so
All
that
the
would
way
be
up.
good. But one way or another, we're gonna have to get the water we need, and that's something that, Kentucky HE development urban system, if the burden of that's on us at some point, if that's the way it is, then that's the way it'll be, but we're looking at all our options there.
And they're currently operating off of their own individual tank for the resort itself.
Yeah, with the spotty service, that's kind of what the hotel has to do to keep their guests happy. We had water go out last Thursday, and we've got a tank that gives us a little bit of buffer, so, in the hotel rooms and stuff, and in the engine rooms, it works. But two things for the record. One of them, we alluded to some conservation land. There's land that we pegged to be conservation land on that property. It hasn't been put in easement yet, just for the record, for whatever purpose. But basically, above that chateau, kind of the hillside going up there to Courthouse Parkway, we've decided that we're not going to build way up there. It'd be out of character for what we've done before. And number 2, we appreciate anything the county can do. We know that this week, after the record rain, all the cold pack washed out of the road. The man there at Blackberry, there's one call that was made, and within a day or 2, they had fixed all that, they had repatched all that. We really appreciate Bill getting out there and doing that. And I've always liked working with him with anything we've done. So we'll do anything we can, anything we need to.
Yeah, it's not nothing nobody's done wrong, it's just we're growing.
Is the existing fire hydrant capable of handling the extra developments there?
Is the existing,
Does it have is the capability of the existing fire hydrant good enough that it would handle any need by adding those new units up there? In other words, is it large enough to handle if there's a need
It's
for it?
only sufficient to fill up a pump truck.
Okay.
It's not, it's a fire hydrant that's not suitable for typical fire protection. It would be a filling device for a pump truck to come up.
But it would be adequate.
For filling a pump truck, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, it would be adequate for that.
insurance.
Right.
And then, of course,
Um,
back down the road there's plenty of hydrants down there that they
Yeah, on the
shuttle
other
back
side.
and forth.
Yeah.
Describe for me the issue that's described here about the hydrant. There will not be an on-site fire hydrant. Should this development have an on-site fire hydrant?
The regulations just state that any development that has more than 5 units, or it's either 5 units or more than 5 units, has to address in their plan fire protection. If they were planning on fire hydrants in there, they would need to indicate what those are. They're not intending on adding any more, but their plan for fire protection is this hydrant that's already in place to service pumper trucks.
And I'd like to add to that, I guess, that I think that probably the intent of the way that the ordinance was written, in looking at multifamily, you traditionally would have multiple structures attached to one another that would require fire protection, multi-level. These are more similar to a single-family residence with a 60-foot separation between units. So you don't have an issue with one unit catching in it and multiple units catching on fire from proximity. Typically you'd have a rated wall if you had a separation of less than 20 feet, and we've got 60 feet, excess of 60 feet between the units. The second thing would be that you've got almost a natural fire ring around this development with a separation between woods edge and then perimeter field area that surrounds the actual proximity of the development itself.
Roger, if this was a subdivision with this many houses someplace else in the county, would we require them to put in a fire hydrant?
I can't, I don't know the subdivision regulations on that well enough to speak intelligently. All it says is that they need to show their plan for fire protection. It doesn't require any specifics. It just shows, it says in the regulations it needs to be shown as what they're thinking.
Who in the county is responsible for making that decision? It's not us, right? Or is it?
Well, their plan indicates that they have thought it out. So I think they've met the regulation by submitting what they've
You
got.
think they have?
Yes.
It's section 7.6, line F. It says any site plan shall address provisions for fire service with fire hydrants and adequate access for emergency vehicles within the development. That's all it says.
And they've got the turnaround at the end of it for emergency vehicle.
So where is this, as you're going up the road and your development's on the right, where's the fire hydrant?
Down the road on the right,
Further,
down the road on
it's
the right.
beyond yours.
Correct, yes, yes. That line runs on down past, along West North Cove, down. And I can answer the question to the subdivision requiring fire hydrants would be no.
No.
Correct.
Well, I don't understand if the fire hydrant's beyond your development, what's the issue with putting a fire hydrant at your development?
To me, as an engineer, putting a fire hydrant on a line that's inadequate for fire supply would not be it gives a false impression that there is fire suppression for, a typical hydrant having a flow rate of 500 gallons a minute at 20 pounds of pressure. So myself as an engineer, I wouldn't want to give somebody the idea that, hey, this is traditional. Now, the rural metro understands what the hydrants around the area, provide. But as Matt was saying, the insurance company, you could say, I've got a hydrant right in front of my house, but it's not really truly, operating as a functional fire suppression device for attaching a hose and fighting a fire with.
But the water that goes to the hydrant you're gonna use comes right by your place.
It does, but what I'm saying is that hydrant is not, it is not an acceptable hydrant for fire suppression.
Okay. All right.
Am I making myself, do you understand what I'm?
Yeah, but what
okay.
that makes sense to me is, here's the development, here's the fire hydrant, and water's coming this way, but we can't put a fire hydrant here because it would give you a false impression, so we're gonna go down here and get it out of this one that's not adequate.
Well, there's literally not enough water in that line to use your hydrant as a fire suppressant, even
That's
down
what he's-
here where it'd be.
Well, yeah, that's what he's saying.
Where the hydrant is, from the road from West Miller's, the property isn't really accessed by the driveway that goes to the current chateau. You would pass the property and go up to Joe Pye Lane and come in that loop. And I would say that the hydrant from that second entrance to Joe Pye Lane is maybe a couple hundred feet. But like you're saying, I mean, put another hydrant on that line's got about 100 gallons going through it.
You're just gonna, it gives you a false sense of security.
Right. I mean, do you understand my point?
Yeah,
As
yeah,
far
I
as
understand.
it gives an impression that there's
Sure.
something there that isn't really there to somebody that's not familiar with what, even though the hydrant cap might have a correct color on it that indicates it's not flowing at this amount, to everybody that wouldn't be recognized. So
To prove this, your access today is on the road prior to the development. Is that Joe Pye?
our,
Joe Pye is a semicircle road, gated road.
Yeah.
It kind of goes through everything there, Black.
So what's the name of the road
West Miller's Cove
that you're gonna use first,
for
access to this?
Joe Pye.
There's an existing driveway I'm using as construction.
And it's gonna be used construction only.
It is going to be used for construction only.
When you develop the property, you're gonna use the Joe Pye only.
Joe Pye.
Yes.
Got it.
So
And that's what we're-
You'll pass it, you'll come very close to that existing hydrant and go in and come in Joe Pye.
So when this development, you're gonna have access to this development through the two gates.
Yep.
And that will be.
This isn't, under this format, that's not a road, the county takes over and does anything with, that's in essence a driveway. So
Yeah.
the condo owners, they keep it up, however they want to keep it up, they pay to do it.
Yeah. And that'll be the only access. Yes.
Whenever you had your meeting with Tuckaleechee Water today, and they said 2014, what are they gonna do in 2014? redo the lines or what?
Well, no, they're applying for some grants, and we're in that grant cycle, and, you know, they indicated to me that this thing, they would be included in that grant cycle.
So what would that, if they get the grant, what improvements would they make to the lines?
Well, you know, you've got two really long runs of 4-inch line that come
Right.
through there. You know, I guess, right there at the first church on the left, at the first mill road, you know, is where 8-inch ends.
Right.
It goes to 4-inch, it goes 4-inch all the way up to Medlin, or somewhere in there, and then there's a short piece of 6, and then it goes to 4 again, so.
Right.
I mean, the first thing to do would be, you know, at some point, if an upgrade in the lines was needed, would be start at the highway and upgrade that 4.
And if they got a grant in 2014, that just means they'll start working on it somewhere thereafter, if they get it for that.
Yeah.
Well, now the same thing, the build-out time on this expansion here will take how long?
Oh, man, don't think about building one of those houses for at least a year.
Well, see, that's my point now. And this is where I'm coming in on the county. If now we're seeing things are in the works here to improve the water situation, we know they've got a build-out time here that's, you know, a couple of years down the road at best. What's a road plan? That's what I'm asking for. What's a county's plan on the road? And that's where I think it would be really neat for us to have all this together. Well, this is building out, water's working its way forward. What's the road going to do? Can we get an idea from the county on what's your plans for the road? I think that's a legitimate deal because, again, it's a safety issue. Can we ask for that? For a plan? They may have a plan, we just don't know what it is.
You can ask.
Well, see,
What, can we ask Bill to come to our meeting?
I'll extend an invitation to him, if you'd like, for
Would
the
that-
next
would that-
meeting.
well, you know, we may, again, this is all positive. This is planning. But I think the road is a weak link in the plan. And I'm sure they've thought about it. We just don't know what it is. I'd like to know.
Neither do I, so.
Yeah, and I'd like to know. And if there's no plan, then maybe a little bit of pressure would, let's get us a plan together. Because there's going to be more things like this in Miller's Cove. And we can't hem ourselves in and say, okay, we let that, there's not room for nobody
Are
else.
you wanting to tie that to a motion? What do you want to do
Well,
with that?
you know, the only way to do it would be to defer action on this tonight and try to put some of this stuff together. And if we defer, what does that do?
Oh, that'd be bad.
How bad is it bad? Well, you're working on it anyway, so you know, again, even if we defer and try to get a plan, the end result is we'll probably approve it. But I'd still like to see what the plan is overall. I don't think that's the correct way to go about it, just to, okay, we do it, and crap, we forgot to think about that. We're thinking about it. And the county, again, with the impact that Blackberry has, the county has to think about it. Am I wrong?
Is that a motion?
No, this is discussion period.
I think it's a legitimate question.
I get the inkling that you're asking me this question. I have no earthly idea what the road plan
Well,
is.
You're in charge of our road.
No, Rob is.
No, I'm just the chair.
Well,
I'm just one that knows all
am I wrong in even questioning and thinking about it this way?
No. The
Well,
roads
that's where
are
I'm
part.
at.
Roads are part of what you guys look at as far as approving a special exception. You could require them to come back with a traffic study if you want to.
Well, I don't-
You could make a pending motion, or you could defer.
I don't
But,
think
I mean,
it- I don't
as
think
far
it's
as
our-
you're just asking me to go.
I don't
talk
think
to
it's
somebody
our,
about
I
the
don't-
road plan.
I don't think it's our
I don't-
deal
I
to
don't know what to do with
require.
that.
I don't think it's our deal to require anybody to do anything. I think it is a subject that we need to toss up, and the county needs to look at and come up. How are we going to help and make this thing go better? So, deferring. If we deferred, it ain't gonna kill you.
Oh, it'll come close.
How?
I'll be in front of you again.
Well, that's what it would be. It'd be for, if we deferred it for 30 days, if within that 30 days, and everybody knows the urgency of it.
That would probably be the only way to hold the county's feet to the
Well,
fire.
and that's
To
what
make
I'm-
them
that's
try
what
to
I'm
make a
getting
decision
at.
over it. It's not fair to Blackberry,
No.
but
But the
down the
county,
road.
the county's a party of this also. And again, I'm all for Blackberry, but, and we're not trying to hold anybody's feet to the fire, but we gotta get attention somewhere. And I think this is an important enough deal that it would get attention.
are you making that as a motion to defer?
Well, I don't know if anybody got any other thoughts
Yeah, I
about
have
it.
a question. If we defer, tell us the impact to you for 30 days.
You know, at the same time that we go in front of you this month, we're gonna have to go in front of planning this month. I'd really rather have gotten through this process with you first.
Is this a domino, we come before you, you have to have us before the planning?
He's speaking of a different issue.
In my mind, that's the best thing to do.
What's the different issue?
The next variance? Is that what you're
No,
talking about?
it's nothing that the BZA has review of. There
It's the
are
subdivision
some
of the
amendments in
property.
the zoning regulations itself that,
No. We're going in front of planning for,
for your
The
plat.
subdivision
for
of
the
the property.
plat on this, and I'd really rather,
For
I'd really rather have y'all stuff first.
for different tracks in addition to this one?
Well, it's making this piece right here its own track, and it's pulling out like that, the ridge line out there is a track, and the piece that the owner's gonna keep, that's a track, it's making those tracks, because right now it's one big 176 acre piece.
But see, in a way, that makes it even more important. If another one of these tracks comes up and we got 10 more condos, then we just scoot it down the road like the Democrats are doing it now, just kick a can. I don't think that's the way to do it. It's a positive deal, and everybody will look at it that way, but it needs to be addressed.
Matt, you know this won't be the last time we see you.
I know it will be. I'll bring you something else you'll want to approve, and you can put me off a month. I'll know it'll be, I don't know. I just, if I'm doing this and I'm going in front of planning, and this has been deferred by the BZA because of a road issue, then that with planning,
When's your meeting with the planning?
I don't know, 25th or something like that.
February?
Yeah.
Well, there's no use us waiting till our next meeting to have Bill come and then them not know what our discussion with Bill is. If we're gonna have a discussion with Bill, we ought to have that soon and then be about this, if that's what we're gonna do. Does that make sense?
Meaning call a meeting?
Yeah,
Before the 25th?
yeah. Can we
Easy to do
not
that.
have, can this group not just have a meeting with Bill and talk about this without everybody else having to be there? I think Stanley's just wanting to know what your plan is.
We can do that, but
that
what are we
illegal?
gonna do about it tonight?
I can't speak for Bill, but I don't, if you guys are not acting on, I don't think there's anything that would prevent you from meeting with the road superintendent as a group. If you're not acting on an issue in these regulations, I don't think it has to be in the form of a public meeting, public hearing. Because
Well,
you guys are not a legislative branch.
And the road is not an issue in this particular deal. Only thing it does is come back to an overall health, safety, and welfare deal.
Right.
Which is health, safety, and welfare. Any place of that, is that an issue in this particular little 15-acre development?
But it holds them hostage in a way. I mean, I can see it holds them in a hostage situation.
Well, and I'm not.
Bad term, but a hostage situation of not being able to press forward based on something that they really don't have control on, which is really the county's responsibility.
And that-
But I see the goodness, or whatever the word is, that the county needs to understand that, you know, they have to do something with the roads.
And again, I'm all for them.
Are
Then-
there-
And
are
the
there-
size, it's something this size, we're talking, 100 vehicle trips per day as a standard use, not as a intermittent, vacation home use. You probably cut that in half. Once it's fully, completely built, you know, it's a small quantity of traffic. And I understand, I fully understand your point on the road conditions.
Roger, are there any other developments coming down the stream in that area?
No.
Not that I know of. I mean, you're talking about a 10-acre development or 10-home development right here. So really the impact is pretty small. Now, the future may hold other things.
But there's nothing in the works that you know about.
Well, I know there's some proposed changes to the zoning regulations that will be, hadn't really been looked at that closely yet, but will be going to the planning commission this month.
That would add development to this area?
Could.
Could.
What if we put a campground in there?
Matt, do you?
That's the reason it's so important. There's a lot of things up in the air we need to know. But I'm not gonna make a motion either way. I'll go whichever way you go, but I wanted to make my point. It's an important issue that needs to be addressed.
Matt, when will your next development be taking place up there?
I mean, and that, the thing with the subdivision there, I mean, it's, there's no other development related to that, that's specified on this piece, you know, that's something that's in the plan. It's just what we're doing to, he bought the property, some of it's going to Blackberry, some of it's going here, so I don't have another 10-unit rollout or something I'm coming to you guys with this year that I plan to. Like I said, there's some stuff in the zoning regulations that we would like to have some different uses approved out there, and that'll be something that's coming forward. I don't know, I mean, I hope that there is more, obviously it keeps me busy, but.
So, Matt, and don't answer it if you can't, okay?
Yeah, sure.
But are you aware of other developments that's coming that will piggyback in that area?
Not like residential subdivision type of things. I mean, Blackberry's got quite a bit of work on their prospectus for stuff they want to do on their property. You know, some of that's going to come through you. I feel confident I'll be in front of you again this year with
Okay.
something, but it'll be probably something that's a Blackberry use, and won't be coming to you to do 10 units or something. But
Can we just talk?
It's on the record.
Huh?
It's on the
Well-
record.
Well, can we approve this with the understanding that we'd ask Bill to come and explain to us what his plans are about the road, and who would tell us about the plans for Tuckaleechee? So my question is, I think it's been a legitimate question asked, what is the plans for that area? And we'd like to just know that, whether it's water, sewer, electric, whatever it is.
Larry, all I can tell you is I can ask if he wanted to come and talk with you all about that. I can't speak for the man.
That way we wouldn't hold him up, and we're getting the information, and maybe we say, okay, guys, from now on, before somebody comes in here, we want to understand what this plan is.
See, we have a planning department, and I'm sure they do a great job. It's just, I don't know what the plan is.
It's good if we would know the plan, but again, I defer to what you suggested. We're holding these guys up. Their responsibility is not that road.
Right.
So I would move that we go ahead and grant the special exemption that they're requesting, with the caveat that's got nothing to do with that, but we would like the planning department, the roads department, to come in and tell us what their plan is, and we can elicit to them, this is what we have to deal with. We have to be concerned about the health and welfare of people too, but yet on the other hand, we're talking about an entity that's going to bring tax dollars back into the county. So that way it doesn't impact them, and maybe we'll get the answers that we need to make, and maybe, as you indicated, maybe it'll put some fire in them to do something about the roads.
You're
And
making
again,
that in the form
they
of a
may be a
motion.
plan.
That's it.
Is there a second?
Second. Let's make sure
Let
we
me
all,
get this right.
yeah, let's make sure
A
we all.
motion to approve with a request to the highway department to discuss the plans for West Millers Cove Road to the BZA. Or should that be separated? What if they say they don't want to? Does that hold them up, is what I'm saying?
No,
No,
It should,
Okay.
no.
no.
we would have done our due diligence and brought it up, and we're out of the loop.
Yeah.
And requested, what about move to approve and a request to the highway department for a report on the status of
Yeah,
West
you don't
Roscoe.
want to put or in there, move and,
Okay.
request the highway department to come in and explain, and Tuckaleechee and whatever.
I think we ought to have water in roads.
Yeah, the Tuckaleechee would be good too.
You know, there's not many more places in Blount County with more going on than West Miller's Cove Road. It's
And-
important.
But you look at it, as they just stated, this means a lot to the county.
Did you get that, Roger?
Yes.
And we're not, you know, we're not throwing sticks or stones at anybody. It's a progression of working together to be helpful going forward. That's the bottom line. Sometimes it's hard to get that feeling across, but that's what it's all about. It's not against anybody. It's against.
Well, there's
Are we
already,
ready for a vote?
Yeah.
Okay. Larry Chesney,
yes.
Bruce Damrow.
Yes.
Stan Hedrick,
Yes.
Rob Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you, gentlemen.
We appreciate it. I mean, we appreciate what you're thinking through too, we really do.
Guy, will you be up here for this next variance?
They have one more, right?
No, he
Oh,
won't.
okay.
Different deal. But yeah, they have one.
And the next one is a variance request on Joe Pye Lane. This variance request is from the 40 feet perimeter setbacks for multifamily developments. In this case, it is a side setback. The property is located at 331 Joe Pye Lane and is identified on tax map 82, parcel 67.26, and is part of Blackberry Mountain Houses condominiums. The property is zoned R1 and the required setback is 40 feet from all property lines with the primary dwelling. The requested variance is for the primary dwelling to extend over the setback 20.18 feet. This would leave a setback of 19.82 feet, which is almost double the normal side setback for a normal residential house. This unit is set apart from the other units of this development just by the way the land's configured, and the lot is heavily wooded. The home would be approximately 40 feet from the neighboring residence. The topography could be considered a hardship in the placement of the home on this portion of the property. It's got some slope and rocks.
And I suppose you're in favor of this variance.
I am.
And your
Can you
name?
tell us your name, please?
Rachel Beasley with Headstrom Design.
Is there anything you'd like to add, what Roger just told us?
We pretty much summed it up. Basically, the location of this house was cited to save the most significant the largest trees there. So, also it's pretty well centered on the site. Just shifted more towards the development next to it, so. Trying to get it off of the private drive that's next to it as well.
Is there any discussion from the board? Chair will entertain a motion.
Please approve.
Second.
Larry Chesney,
Yes.
Bruce Damrow,
Yes.
Stan Hedrick,
Yes.
Rob Walker.
Yes. Matt, you should have let her come up the first time.
Matt, maybe y'all let her do both of them.
The next variance request is at 939 Brick Mill Road. This request is for a 5-foot setback from a garage to be located at this address. The property is identified on tax map 111, parcel 118.05. The property is zoned R1 with the required setback of 10 feet. The applicant is requesting a 5 feet setback for the garage unit he will be building in place of an old garage that was removed. The request is actually to place the wall of the garage closest to the property line at the same distance from the property line as the old one. Our regulations allow for structures that are destroyed to go back on the same footprint. In this case, the structure was removed and will be different dimensions than the original. The applicant was under the impression that he could go back in the same area as the previous structure. The claimed hardship is the limited amount of room between the house and the property line.
I suppose you're in favor of this variance?
Yeah,
Could you tell me your name, please?
Roger Irwin.
Roger Irwin?
I-R-W-I-N, Irwin.
If there's anything you'd like to add to what Roger just told us?
Well, I went up and applied for me a permit, you know. I mean, thought I was doing the right thing, and I told the girl there at the desk that I was going to tear the garage down that was there, or the building, you know. And I told her that it was about 5 foot off the property line then. And she said, well, we just have to see. So I asked her if, when the permit, she said, week to 10 days. So I figured a week to 10 days. Well, the next day I got a call and said my permit was ready, so I didn't expect it that soon. And I went and picked it up, in which I guess you've got a copy of the paper that I picked up there. And it states down there at the bottom, and I don't know who wrote this, I don't know if Roger or who up there, because there's no signature, I don't think, on here. But, you know, as long as the structure goes back at the existing footprint. And I asked her about that, and she said, as long as you don't get any closer than what the other building was, and you stay there. And I said, well, you know, what about going the other direction? She said, that's fine, because the property lays, you know, the other way, there's no problem. And so, in the process, I went ahead and, you know, tore all the old building down and everything, and before I dug the footers, I called her back just to be sure. I said, I want to be sure before I dig footers, you know. And she said, let me pull your file. She went and pulled the file, and she said, you're fine as long as you don't go any closer than what the other building was. So I had the footers dug, and then he come to inspect them, and he sort of stopped me, because he didn't know what had been set up at the office and what, you know, I wasn't there, I was at work. So, you know, from there, I'm at standstill. I got footers poured and can't build it.
Before we get any further along, is there anyone in opposition to this? Okay, we'll open up the floor for discussion from the board.
As you look down your driveway and the house is there, the garage was to the right of the house as you face it
Yeah,
out?
to the right, yes. Sure
That's why
was.
you don't see an issue there now, because the old garage is down and you just got footers.
Right, right. When, you know, the old garage was built there. The property I live on I'm a third generation. My granddad owned it, my dad owned it, and now me and my brother own it. And my uncle had bought this acre of ground. He lived in Indiana. They wanted to move down here, so he put a trailer there, and then he built this garage. Well, to know my uncle, it's cheap, cheap, cheap. You know, I mean, he didn't build a garage like I was gonna build one, you know. And he just more or less throwed something up there. It's built on a concrete slab like, and it's just beginning to weather and get to fall down. Had this an old aluminum top on it. One of the limbs fell out of the tree over here next to it, which I've had that tree trimmed since then. I had somebody come in and cut all the limbs back on that tree. One of them fell out and hit the garage and sort of damaged it, and that's one reason why, you know, I was going to build, which me and my wife had talked about building a new garage anyway. And when that happened, we just said, hey, you know, let's go ahead and see what we can do and go ahead and build us something, get it done, which I've worked and saved for 4 or 5 years just to build this garage. You know?
Well, now, the garage you're going back with, is it gonna be larger than the one that was sitting there?
Well, basically, by the standards, it's not going to be as big. The one that was there was deeper and not hardly as wide, but this one's going to be shallower and about 4 foot longer. So it's basically going to be littler. It's just not going to be as big. The longer part's going towards the house. It's going to be a 3-bay garage. I've got 3 different vehicles. I've got a truck, a car, and I've got a boat that's going to put in there. No work in it or anything like that. I just want something nice to store my vehicles in.
So you made calls to the officials, and they said that you were okay?
Well, I called once.
Okay, once.
I was up there, you know,
Okay.
when I picked the permit up. And then, when, she said I could go ahead, but then I tore the old garage down, you know, which it took me a while. I've been working 7 days a week. I work at J-Tech in Von Orr, and we build steering gears, and they go on cars, and we've been working a lot, you know. So it took me a while to get it tore down, which, you know, I got it tore down, and before I dug the footers, I did call her back and just make sure that I was right. You know, I want to do everything right, you know. I didn't, it's the first time I've ever built anything that I had to get a permit and do what I need to do, and I wanted everything to be what it's supposed to be. And she said as long as I didn't get any closer to the property line, so.
If he's going back on the same footprint. That's right.
If you're going back, the letter of the law reads, if your building's destroyed by natural calamity, you can go back on the same footprint regardless of where it is. Same footprint, same footprint. This one's a different footprint, but this exterior wall is going to go back in the same place. Now, I have to apologize for any misleading information, but, you know, I did notate that notation on the permit that it has to go back in the same footprint.
But what he's doing is actually ending up no closer to the property line.
No, it will not be any closer to the
No.
property line. No.
Matter of fact, it might not be as close, really, you know.
I'll make a motion with. approve.
Second.
Larry Chesney,
Yes.
Bruce Damrow,
Yes.
Stan Hedrick,
Yes.
Rob Walker.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Get it built now.
Okay.
Okay, do I need any paperwork or anything saying it's approved, or?
No, I'll let the inspector know tomorrow, so you can just go ahead and start work. Just, you know, call in for your regular scheduled
Yeah.
inspections.
Yeah, you told me when I was supposed to.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, appreciate
All
it,
right.
guys.
Thank you.
y'all.
Is this the other business on the RAC?
This is something that's just starting to come back up. I can see it as people try to get things going again, being an issue down the road. But I wanted, on this, in the RAC, you've got a list of permitted uses: general retail sales and rental of goods and merchandise, restaurants, bed and breakfast, office of physician, dentist, or other similar medical professionals, campgrounds, golf driving ranges, miniature golf courses, and similar uses, kennels and veterinary services, miscellaneous public and semi-public facilities, including post offices, commercial greenhouses, churches, temples, and similar places of worship with accessory structures, uses, and cemeteries, golf courses, commercial cemeteries not associated with any place of worship, any use permitted as listed as permissible as a special exception in 9.2A and 9.2B. A gentleman down there has got some commercial buildings that was built prior to these changes in this regulation, and he's got a client that would like to go into one of them. And his use, this is what I'm struggling with, his use, it's kind of a weird use. It's not one you're going to hear of very often. This company works on electric turbines, like in dams, I guess, or
All types of turbines, what I.
that produce electricities. What this proposed use is they need a place where they can have they use these shipping containers. They put a little office in those shipping containers and stock them with tools and supplies, and they put them on site. And they need a place indoors to do that use. So what they do is they bring the shipping container in, restock it, and take it back out to the job site. It's not an exact fit in my interpretation of this section of a permitted use in RAC zone. It sounds more like a warehouse. So I was just due diligence here, going to make sure I wasn't out of line in my interpretation and run it by you guys too.
So it's like a pods.
Right.
Okay.
And they equip it, the little pod's equipped with an office and then the materials that their employee would need at the job site.
So from outside the building, you see a pod come in, and I see a pod come out.
Yeah, and I think he said there may be some storage outside, I guess.
I'm Tim Ivins. I've been working with this couple, this company, trying to find a place to either lease or purchase. And what they're looking for is they need about a 6 to 7 thousand square feet warehouse space to house the tools that they utilize in repairing these generators. They keep, their inventory consists of about 24 8 by 20 pods, if you will, that they come in pairs, and they come in pairs. One pod is an office, a mobile office space that they send, and then the other pod contains all of the tools and all of the equipment they need to do the generator work. So they send them out a pair at a time. It's my understanding they're usually on job sites for about 2 weeks. Is normally the urgency of having these generators repaired are such that it's a kind of a 24-hour, from what I think, repair that they come in and get the work in and out as quick as they can, and then they ship the pods back to restock or refit whatever they need to do for the tools that are going to the next job.
When they refit the pods, then that's a general merchandise sale. They sell that back, or is?
No, they're not selling. The pods belong to the company, and that's what they use to facilitate getting their office and their equipment to the job site. I think apparently, I don't know the specifics of what they do. I mean, as far as the type of repair work that they're doing, but they're putting the equipment to do the repair in one of the pods, and then the other pod has a small, like a small office, and they send those 2 pods, if you will, to the job site. Then when the job is completed, the pods come back. They he says restock, I guess, for whatever specific job they're going to next, and then send them out again.
Okay.
You said there'd be 8 to 24 at
They'll
this
be-
facility?
24 is what he's telling me, that they have their inventory is 24.
Will they just keep those outside? Or
They'll
they all
be,
keep
from what I
them inside?
understand, he said that there was a 2-week turnaround on their job site, so they will be going, I don't know that there would ever be 24 sitting on the site, except I did hear him in speaking with a property owner that around the month of December, November to December, that is when they have the most inventory sitting on their yard.
Okay.
The rest of the time they're coming in and out.
But they would store them all outside if,
Yes, sir.
okay.
Well, it definitely doesn't fall under uses prohibited. It's not a pain management clinic.
You know, it's interesting whenever, again, going back to late 1990s when the zoning was on the planning commission, was trying to come up with all these uses that was permitted. A lot of uses you can't think of. This use right here is unique.
It is.
They're selling stuff. Instead of putting it in a buggy going out the front door, they're putting it in a box and going out the back door. So, you can't identify every use specifically. That's why we got the board here. We can.
You know, unless this is in a residential area where people complain about pods sitting around, we're either taking a pod in and not doing anything that would be disruptive. They're not making noise, they're not like school buses starting up every morning at 4:30. So I've seen.
So you need a vote on this to,
Well, if the BZA gives me direction that you think it fits the RAC, then I think that would satisfy me to go ahead and provide this property owner a letter that's stating that it would be an appropriate use.
Yeah, I think the issue you have is 24 pods sitting out outside the building, and how does that impact that zoning for the neighbors?
On this particular building that he's looking at, I know that doesn't doesn't weigh in on every particular use in the future, but these will not be visible from the highway. They will not be visible because of the way that the building and the topography of the land lays. You won't see the pods. The pods are going to be on the back side of the building.
What about the neighbors?
Yeah.
Well,
It's
fortunately
farm.
where this is, there's not any neighbors. The whole back of the property is open pasture field.
Owned by the building owner.
I mean, if you had binoculars, you would, I mean, you can see them in the distance. When I say you can't see them, I got into the thing about that. You can see them, but it's not something that I would consider noxious or.
Is this a new company?
It
Maybe.
is, it's,
How many jobs are you gonna have?
I don't know specifically. I really don't know.
Jobs.
They're not they're most of their, I do not think, honestly, I do not think they're going to have a whole lot of new jobs being created because the nature of their work is they are bringing they're not bringing the work in, they're sending their people out to do the work on the job. The only thing I can liken it to is when they were replacing, like, or doing the work at the generators on the dams, they would send the workmen out there along with their equipment, and they would do the work there.
Let me make it a question too. They restock these with parts that they're selling.
Yes.
So I think that falls under the retail aspect.
That's why I asked about the retail parts. Somebody's got to buy it sometime.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I misunderstood. I was thinking that they're
Oh,
not
no,
going
no,
to be
yeah.
selling outside.
I wasn't clear on it, yeah.
Right,
They're
but
not going to be selling out of their building.
they sell it to their clients.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, I make a motion, we approve this.
Second.
Larry Chesney,
Yes.
Bruce Damrow,
Yes?
Stan Hedrick,
Yes.
Rob Walker.
Yes.
Motion to approve.
Yeah,
Thank you,
just wanna say
gentlemen.
something. I used to do subdivision development when we could do them, and I appreciate what you were talking about with Blackberry about the road situation. I mean, it's trying to get when I was doing a lot of subdivisions, the big problem was the infrastructure, is that infrastructure there to support the subdivision. And so I can see all that's what you're trying to identify, and I appreciate that.
Well, at some point, the road has to have something to do.
The road and the water need addressed up there.
Thank you, Tim, for coming.
Hey, I appreciate you letting me down. I'm not, the way development's been, I've not had a call to Ben from the board here recently very much.
Keep the juices going.
That's right. Thank you.